Studio, the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Tom, how much time did you spend yesterday watching the impeachment trial?
Not as much as you might think, but more than I wanted to.
That seems to be the universal answer. I felt like I was made to sit in front of this movie or this film with my eyes taped open and forced to endure the horror of what happened yesterday. I have to tell you, every time Adam Schiff got up to talk, I just said I can't, and I either had to leave the room or just turn down the sound. I just can't anymore. I cannot with him.
Adam Schiff isn't a witness, yet he tried to make himself a witness yesterday. And I think that's one of the major legal deficiencies. I don't know if the legal team for the White House has picked this up, is that he's characterizing the evidence. And that's not evidence. The evidence is the evidence. You go to a court, you go to a trial, lawyers, practically speaking, think of it like this. They got a box of evidence to give to the court and tell the court this is how you should think about it.
Right.
And the Democrats are trying to get away with their characterization of the evidence as being the evidence. In fact, they went on a fishing expedition and found evidence of the following: there was a delay in the holding up of conveying aid to Ukraine. The transcript shows the president had three concerns, and he stated them. The internal bureaucrats, the deep state bureaucracy, had concerns about delaying it too long, objected to what they thought some of the reasons may or may not have been. They didn't have any evidence of that. And it went to the Ukrainians. That's what happened.
Right.
They're saying it happened for the following reasons, but there's no evidence that the reasons were inappropriate or improper. They may characterize it as inappropriate. And so they don't have the evidence. So what they're asking the Senate to do is, well, we went on a fishing expedition, couldn't find any evidence per se of misconduct. Give us a chance to go and ask again. And no court in their right mind would ever allow that to happen. And that's why they had the trouble they had yesterday. One of the most extraordinary aspects of it, and I was up late watching, they came up and they asked for an initial subpoena on Bolton late last night around midnight. Jerry Nadler went up there and attacked the entire Senate. Said, if you vote against us, you've been voting against us, you're all corrupt, you're all part of the conspiracy to cover this up. And, I could see him attacking Mitch McConnell and saying crazy things like that. But there are 4 or 5 senators he needs to persuade on the Republican side to get this done. And they've given up persuading.
The senators are actually, no matter what party they're in, are very prickly about being lectured by House members. You got to wonder what some of the longtime Democratic senators are thinking to themselves, as Jerry Nadler says that to them last night. He also said on some of the Sunday shows this past weekend that the Senate itself is on trial. So you got this House member who comes waddling over to tell the senators that they are the ones who are guilty here. I got to imagine, no matter how they vote, that there are at least some Democratic senators, maybe like Patrick Leahy, some long-timers, who are sitting there thinking, okay, don't lecture me, buddy.
Well, they attacked the presidency, and now they're attacking the Senate. It's all part of the coup.
Yeah.
It's not about the rule of law. It's about trying to mischaracterize information out there about what happened during this phone call. Adam Schiff and his team have been caught mischaracterizing another set of documents, the Parnas documents.
Right.
It says, well, we're trying to get a meeting with Mr. Z. Well, Mr. Z didn't turn out to be the Z that they had thought it was or pretended to. They mistake Mr. Z was an oligarch in Ukraine, not the president of Ukraine.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, but of course,
sad.
The evidence doesn't show any improper conduct by the president. This is why the president keeps on saying to read the transcripts, because he intuitively understands that's the evidence. What Adam Schiff says about this doesn't count. And the Senate has to decide whether they're going to draw a line against this abuse or allow Adam Schiff to run not only roughshod over the House, but now take control of the Senate.
You had said, Tom, that Adam Schiff is treating this like he's a witness and that he's not a witness. But he is a witness, isn't he? Because didn't he originally say that he met with the whistleblower, and then he walked it back and said, oh no, he met with someone in my office, and then we're supposed to believe that person in his office didn't tell Adam Schiff anything about what they talked about.
Well, that's why I think his front and center role is so interesting. He says he's not a witness. He's testifying as if he's a witness. And as you point out, Mary, practically speaking, he is a witness. The Senate the Senate brief filed by the White House highlights the fact he's a fact witness. I don't understand why he's being allowed to make an argument. If you were a lawyer and you were a witness, and there's a credible reason to believe you might be called as a witness, you wouldn't be allowed to prosecute it. You'd have to recuse yourself, or the court would knock you out based on the conflict.
Okay, I want to get your reaction in just a moment to how you think the president's legal team is handling all this, because I know you had a lot of opinions coming into the trial about the way this should be conducted, and in fact, you wanted to see it dismissed right away instead of even getting to the point we're at now. So more with Tom Fitton in just a second, 7:43 on WMAL.
Where Washington comes to talk.
I love our affiliate there, WMAL.
105.9 FM.
You guys leading the way.
WMAL.
And joining us here in studio, Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch. We're discussing what happened yesterday in that impeachment trial. You know, you had mentioned, Tom, about what's happening, how Adam Schiff, and they're bringing up Les Parnas, and they're bringing up all these other things. I thought that they were supposed to be there, the impeachment managers, to present the case that they developed in the House. Why is Mitch McConnell allowing them to bring in all these things that have nothing to do with the evidence for the articles of impeachment?
I don't know. I don't know why there's no objections. I mean, if this were a courtroom, and it isn't a courtroom, I mean, that's the problem. It's not a courtroom. Mitch McConnell's got 5 or 6 senators who may go south and already have gone south on certain issues as this trial is running. But on the other hand, a lot of this is noise signifying nothing. It's an abusive process. They're not getting the votes they want. I think what's remarkable yesterday is that you had a series of resolutions designed to make the Senate look bad.
Right.
And the Republicans all stuck together and said, we won't be bullied by Adam Schiff. We won't be bullied by Jerry Nadler. You're not going to take over the Senate. Mm-hmm. And they need to hold that line, and it's pretty clear they want an abbreviated trial schedule. If yesterday is any indication of what will happen in the future, they may not get any witnesses. I mean, this idea of Bolton coming in may not happen. And frankly, if they get witnesses, if I were the president, given everything that Schiff has been saying, I would seek to bring in everybody. I mean, everybody.
How do you grade both the Republican senators and the White House's legal team, Pat Cipollone and Jay Sekulow, how they were doing yesterday?
Well, you know, that's the first time they had a chance to make a sustained argument on behalf of the president. They've had no access to witnesses. They've had no due process, at least the president hasn't. I would make it simpler. I think they get needlessly complicated about the legalities and the constitutionality issues here. They don't have the evidence. Schiff is mischaracterizing what happened. And you just can't allow him to come in here and get the blessing of the Senate to go on a fishing expedition. It's a pretty straightforward case, and it can't be allowed to abuse the Senate further.
Well, you know who accidentally made that very case yesterday? Senator Mazie Hirono on CNN. You want to hear her? Take a listen. Yeah, this is Mazie Hirono on CNN.
21 years ago, during the Senate trial, 21 years ago, for Bill Clinton's impeachment, the testimonies were done behind closed doors, videotaped, and then the video excerpts were shown to the members of the Senate. That would be following the Clinton precedent. Would that be acceptable to you?
If we were following the Clinton precedent, there would have been all of this discovery done at the House level, and that's not what's happening at all.
That's not what's happening at all. Just take it from Mazie Hirono. They should have done this in the House.
Schiff was king of the House for 2 months. He could have done it all, and he chose not to. And because he couldn't look, he didn't have a case to make, so he was taking gossip, he was taking innuendo, and substituting that for evidence. And so he goes to the Senate. Obviously, it's deficient. So what else is he going to do? Well, let's bring in John Bolton. Maybe he can give us more gossip about what the president said or didn't say. There's no evidence the president had a political motive for doing this. And raising questions about Joe Biden doesn't mean there's an improper motive behind raising questions about Joe Biden. There's evidence Joe Biden did something wrong by his own admission. So the idea that he can somehow come in later after the fact, Adam Schiff can, and bring in additional witnesses to try to change the narrative that he's developed on his own, that there's nothing but gossip and innuendo, the Senate should just cast aside and reject. Let them make their argument. Let them try to characterize the evidence. But there's no reason, if you were in court saying, I've got good reason to go and harass the President of the United States and raise these core issues of executive privilege, the court would say, no, you haven't made a showing. Your allegations are not a reason for me to give you license to go and harass the President. You had that chance in the House. You used allegations to harass the President in the House. But in the Senate, we're not going to allow that abuse.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. Let me put it this way. I hope it gets interesting because right now it's like watching grass grow. It's painful. I think we know how this ends, unless there's some huge surprise. We're just watching taxpayer money be burned by the wheelbarrow fulls, and it's really, really wrong.
And our Constitution's under attack. This is an undermining of our ability to elect our presidents and run our constitutional republic. This is terrible. In addition to the waste of funds.
Yeah, Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your expertise.